Hello, welcome to the first video in this VFX tutorial series. In this series, I'll show you how to create a small explosion using Unity's particle system. I'll be working in Unity 6, but if you're using an older version, don't worry. Most of what we'll cover should still apply. We'll go over the basics of the particle system, use shader graph to create a simple material, and make our first texture for the explosion impact using Krita, a free digital art program. By the end of this tutorial, you'll have an effect that looks like this. So, let's get started. So, I have a scene open and added a plane for the ground. I've also set up some post-processing. To see it, just click on the global volume in the hierarchy. Bloom is enabled, which makes materials glow. This will look great when we add sparks. You can copy these values here or mess around and see what works for you. I have tone mapping set to aces. Finally, I have added a vignette. This is optional, but I like the way it looks. If you're not seeing any changes, select the main camera. Go to the rendering section and make sure post-processing is enabled. Okay, we should be good to get started now. All right, let's create a particle system. Right-click in the hierarchy. Go to Effects and select Particle System. It's always a good idea to reset the transform whenever you add a new game object to the scene. I'll also rename this to VFX Boom to keep things organized. Now, on the right, we have all the settings we can tweak to change how the particles behave. I won't go over every single one, just the important ones for this effect. First, we have duration. This controls how long the system spawns particles. For this effect, it doesn't really matter, so I'll just set it to 1. Next, we need to turn looping off, since we don't want the explosion to repeat. Start delay sets how long before the particles appear. I'll set that to 0.2 seconds. Lifetime determines how long each particle stays visible. Since this is an explosion, we don't want them to last too long, so I'll make it 0.8. Speed controls how fast the particles move when they spawn. 1 is a good number for this. For the start size, click the small arrow next to it and choose Random between two constants. This lets us give each particle a slightly different size. I'll set it to 5 and 7, but feel free to experiment. And finally, we'll change the start color. I'll just make it a nice yellow. Okay? That's our basic setup. Next, let's adjust the emission settings. Since we don't need the particles to spawn over time, we'll use a burst instead. This is where the duration setting comes in handy. Right now, it would spawn 10 particles over 1 second, but we want an instant burst. So I'll set the rate over time to 0. Click the plus icon to add a burst, and change the burst count to 10. We'll change the shape of the spawner. Right now, it's set to a cone, but I want it to be a hemisphere. This will make the particles spread out more when they spawn. By default, it's facing the wrong direction, but you can easily fix that. Just click here, hold Ctrl, and rotate it will snap in increments, making it easier to adjust. Now it's facing the right way. We'll also change the radius to 0.3. This controls how far the particles can spawn from the center. You can tweak this if you want a different spread. The next setting we'll adjust is Color over Lifetime. Tick the box to turn it on, then click the white box to open the color editor. Here, we can change the colors using these sliders. Since this is an explosion, I want it to get darker over time, so I'll adjust it to transition from white to a red. You can also set the opacity to 0 at the start to create a fade-in effect, which looks pretty nice. Next, let's adjust size over lifetime. Tick the box to enable it. Then click on the setting to reveal a line. This is a curve editor. Click on the curve, and at the bottom here, you can drag up. Now we can change how the curve affects the particles. This controls how the particles change size over time. You can adjust the curve manually or pick from one of the presets at the bottom. I like this one, so I'll use it. Okay. So that is it for this part of the effect. Now that we have the first burst of particles, I want to add some smoke. I'll copy and paste the first particle system and make it a child of VFX Boom. I'll rename it to Smoke. By clicking this toggle, I can make it so that only the selected particle system plays. I'll keep the duration the same and make sure looping is turned off. I'll also add a slight delay so the smoke appears after the burst. Like we did with start size earlier, we can do the same for start speed. Click the small arrow, select random between two constants, and set the values to 5 and 7. I'll also adjust the start size to 5 and 6. For the color, I'll use a dark grey to make it look more like smoke. I'll keep the emission and shape settings the same. Next, I'll change color over lifetime so that the opacity starts at 0 and gradually fades into black. I'll also make a small adjustment to size over lifetime. Open the curve editor, and if you drag this point to 2, it will make the particles stay larger for longer. Now, I just noticed a dark edge around the first burst of particles. To fix this, select VFX Boom and scroll down to the Renderer section. Here you'll see the material. Click on it to open its location. Right now, the settings are grayed out, so we need to make a copy. Press Ctrl and C to copy and Ctrl and V to paste it. I've created a materials folder, so I'll paste it there. Now, we can edit the settings. Change the blending mode from alpha to additive. Then, go back to VFX Boom's renderer and replace the material with the new one by dragging and dropping it in. Okay, that's the smoke done. In the next video, we'll create some sparks and use shader graph to make a glowing material for them. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.